I was medically retired from the Navy in January 2019. And when I got out of the Navy, like a lot of guys, not all guys, but like a lot of guys, I didn't know what the crap I was going to do, man. Um, I I didn't even I didn't realize I also didn't realize the things that I had learned in the Navy were valuable
Mm-hmm.
to other people. Like I didn't see myself as an asset really when I got out of the Navy. Once I was no longer part of the team, I just thought I'm out here in this freaking civilian world and I'm not really an asset because I I just didn't know the way that I thought and the way I ticked and the way I had been trained and the things I had seen and the things I had learned from my mentors and people in the teams that were way better than me. Uh, I thought everybody thought like we thought.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what the crap I was going to do, man. And turns out I decided to start ultra running just as a personal thing. And for me, it was just to have something in my life that was still going to challenge me at a high level and like force me to grow and stay in shape. And it gave me a place to compete and things like that. So I started ultra running. Didn't know what I was going to do to make a living in terms of business, but I I I've always been a pretty good runner. Not not like obviously not like Olympic or collegiate level, but I've been decent. And I ended up being really good at ultra running just because I had that kind of foundation of being a decent runner
Mm-hmm.
paired with the mindset that I had learned through buds and the SEAL teams and all my mistakes and all my triumphs and all that stuff. And so when you paired that kind of good foundation of being a decent runner with the mindset I had, I was able to go out and start doing really well at races and even winning races really early on in my ultra running career, if you want to call it.
With that
And
mindset.
so a dude hits me up on Instagram. I started an Instagram page because my chief, Brandon Tucker, which you guys should interview him. My chief was like, that my last chief before I got out, he said, you got to start an Instagram page. I didn't even know what social media was, but he told me about it. So I started one and I started posting about my running. And some guy hits me up on my direct messages on Instagram and wanted me to come and coach him on how to run. And I did some research on this dude, and he turns out to be one of the top entrepreneurs in the world. His name's Jesse Itzler.
Amazing.
He's a billionaire entrepreneur, but he likes to run. And he had decided he wanted to run 100-miler, and he said he couldn't run any further than 20 miles. He was just, when he would go out on his training runs, he just couldn't push past 20 miles. It was like this mental block or mental hurdle. And so he hit me up, somehow found me and asked if I'd come and coach him. Well, back then I didn't realize that people paid people to coach him. I was just like, well, this guy just needs help. He seems like a cool guy. I'll probably learn some things from him and maybe I can help him out with his running.
Yep.
So I flew up to his place in Connecticut, and it's funny because he's a New Yorker and totally like polar opposite personality to me, And so I fly up there and I'm like fresh out of the Navy, man. And I just started listening to the way he was talking and looking at the people he was surrounded with and just kind of analyzing his environment. And I said, all right, I know what to do here. And he expected me to like tell him to buy a different pair of running shoes and like look at his running form and make tweaks to his running form and stuff. And I could tell the dude was fit and he knew how to run. his problem was all in his freaking head.
Yep.
And so I wasn't telling him anything about running. I'm just hanging out with these people, complete strangers at this point. I just met them. And so the whole time, Jesse's thinking, well, I sure have wasted my time flying this freaking redneck guy up here that, he's a good runner, but I flew him up here to coach me, and he's not telling me anything about running. So we get up the next morning, and I'm like, all right, Jesse, we're going to run today, and we're going to run until I say we're done running. So I didn't tell him how far we were going to run. And I said, there's only 3 rules. The first rule is no cussing. And he's a New Yorker, so he cusses, man. And that was hard for him. Like, I was like, absolutely not. No cursing, all right? The second rule was that every hour on the hour, we were going to share something with each other that we were thankful for.
Amazing.
And the third rule was that anytime I asked him how he was doing during our run, he could only respond with, I'm outstanding. I feel outstanding. That was his only response he could give. Even if he literally felt like total freaking crap, he wasn't allowed to give that pain he was feeling a voice. He had to respond with, I feel outstanding. So we go out and run, and I'm, just holding this guy accountable. And we're just going through the motions. We run 20 miles, 30 miles, 40 miles, 50 miles. We get to 50 miles, and it's starting to get dark. And to be honest with you, I was tired of running, and I wanted to go get some food because he had a chef at the house, right? I was like, heck yeah, man, we're not gonna miss dinner. This is like, I don't have a chef.
You get some chow.
Yeah, man. So I was like, all right, man, we're calling it. And we called it at 50 miles that day. And he could have kept running. I mean, he could have went, I don't know how far he could have went, 100 miles, 200 miles, I don't know. But when I did that for that dude, he's the first person that ever told me, hey man, not everyone thinks like you, and the way that you think can help other people. You need to be teaching people this stuff, right? And he started talking to me about building a brand. I didn't even know what a brand was, dude. I had no idea what a brand was. He started telling me, yeah, you got to have this logo. You got to have, put it on a T-shirt and this and that. And
website.
Yeah, website. I didn't know any of this. So he's telling me, dude, you need to take what you know and you need to teach this to other people because look how much it just helped me. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, me and Jesse ended up running that 100-mile race together, and we finished in less than 24 hours.
Incredible.
Using these same principles. And so that was kind of how we got the brand, how the concept of the brand came around. And then 3 of 7 Project is a really weird thing. I was doing a podcast with Marcus Luttrell. If you guys don't know Marcus, he's the lone survivor.
Yep.
Operation Red Wings, really amazing story of survival. And it's where Mike Murphy was on that Medal of Honor winner. I was doing a podcast with Marcus Luttrell one day, and he stops in the middle of the freaking interview, and he opens up his Bible and just starts reading Ezekiel 37.
No way.
Valley of the Dry Bones, Ezekiel 37. I don't know freaking Marcus from nobody, man. And he just stops in the middle of the podcast and he reads the entire chapter, and then he just stares at me.
No way.
Yeah, he just stares at me. And then I'm like, Roger that, man. Roger that.
Just a God moment.
Freaking wild, man.
Man.
There's something special about Marcus. I can't put my finger on it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not saying that whatever. He's human. He's like the rest of us, but there's something special about that dude. And so when I was trying to think of a name for this brand, and Marcus reads this Ezekiel 37, and I'm looking at Ezekiel 37, the Valley of the Dry Bones, and how the Lord is taking these bones and putting flesh and sinews on them to build them up into this complete human being or being. So I thought, man, I like that. So 3 of 7 is going to be based around doing things or finding ways to master, nourish, and maintain our body, physical body, our mind, and our spirit in order to become a complete or the most complete version of ourselves that we can possibly become. And that was the idea. And I put it on a t-shirt. And if any of you guys ever start a brand, when you first start it, it's going to sound really weird and you're going to feel like a fraud and you're going to be like, this doesn't really have any like following or meaning right now, or I don't even know exactly what it's supposed to be.
What it is.
That's how I felt, man.
Man.
But I just did it anyways.
That's incredible. Chad, I want to unpack a couple things in that story. The first one is that season where you got medically retired and you're first out in the civilian world. Before that window where the ultra running started, between retirement and that first run, did you go through a rock bottom moment? Did you go through a tough season?
Yeah, I went through a tough season, but it was really, to be honest with you, the toughest part of that season was like the probably the last 6 months I was actually still in. And I was having to go to all these freaking doctor's appointments, man, because the Navy just sends you down this rabbit hole. Like the first, like I went to the doc because I was having problems with my balance. I would go out at night. I was at Traded at the time as an instructor. I would go out at night doing a nighttime OTB or something, and I'd be on nods, watching the guys come across the beach, and like I would just lose my balance and kind of fall over. And it kept happening, and obviously that kind of freaks you out. I mean,
yeah,
it did me anyway.
Yeah.
So I went to the doctor and I was like, hey man, my balance is jacked up. And so then they run me through this test and they figure out I've lost like 50% of my vestibular function on one side. I already knew I was completely deaf on my left side, but I didn't know that my vestibular function, the stuff in your inner ear that controls your balance, had gotten all jacked up too. Well, once they find that, then they start sending you like down all these different rabbit holes, like all these different scans, and they want you to go talk to this counselor, and they want you to go over here, and dude, that was awful. It was so awful.
Chasing
that
all
was
the
the
wrong things.
hardest time of my transition.
Oh.
So once all that crap was over, and I was actually out of the Navy, it almost was like, oh, thank God. Like, I'm out now. Because, like, when you're in the Navy, if they tell you to go to the doctor or the specialist or whatever, you have to go.
You're going.
You have to go. And then you got to listen to that daggone head, whoever he is, tell you all the crap that they think's wrong with you. And then you're just listening to that day after day. And then, by the end of 6 months, they've convinced you that you're just a freaking broke dick piece of crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They can get in your head and think you're
Yeah, they get in your head, man.
Crazy.
They get in your head. That's their job. Their job is to find something wrong with you. And so once I was out, I was like, okay, I can take a pause now. Like, I don't have to go to these freaking doctors anymore. But I kind of felt, I didn't feel grounded, right? Because I didn't have a mission once I was out of the Navy. I didn't have a mission. I didn't have a purpose. I went down to Moyock and got a little job with the formerly Blackwater. It's now called Academy. It's a contractor, big contractor down there. And I got a job with them, just kind of working some little different contracts here and there. But that was stupid. I mean, I didn't want to do it. It was the same crap I've been doing. I didn't want to do that. But rock bottom, no, I wouldn't say it was rock bottom. I say the rock bottom for me in my adult life was when my wife was dying from addiction in 2012.
Oh man,
that's been the hardest thing in my whole adult life is watching her, overdose time after time, and
drugs or
that was
alcohol?
Freaking terrible, man.
Was that drugs or alcohol?
Drugs, pills, yeah, all kinds of drugs, yeah.
Man.
Yeah, and praise the Lord, she's been clean and sober for a long, long time now. But that was, if I had to call out a rock bottom, that would have been it.
Yeah, that would be very extremely difficult for anyone, for sure.
I hate it, man. I hate freaking drugs, man. I hate them. I don't hate addicts because, like, I know who my wife's one of the coolest freaking people on earth, man.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're bound up by drugs or alcohol, or they're bound up by that spirit of addiction, is how I like to reference it. It's the most powerful force on earth. Addiction is it trumps a mother's love. It trumps money. It trumps sex. It trumps every other powerful thing on earth if you get bound up by it. And I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, just the devil prowling around us like a lion, just another tactic he has just to bring us down.
For sure, man. And a lot of people are really judgmental against addicts, and I get it, man. Like, I get it. A lot of these people that get hooked on these pills and stuff, they get like my wife, she got prescribed this stuff. When she had her wisdom teeth pulled, and it just hooked. She was hooked on it immediately. And then it literally becomes a disease where they can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have to go get treatment to stop. So a lot of y'all can say, oh, well, these people are freaking turds because they chose to take these drugs and this and that. Well, yeah, maybe they did choose the first time or the second time. And yeah, that was a bad decision. But how many freaking bad decisions have you made?
Yeah.
A lot. It's just the bad decisions, the couple bad decisions they made led them to a place where they no longer had a decision. It just consumed them.